We've just rolled into June 2026. Mobile gaming ain't slowing down a bit. If anything, it is starting with the good stuff. Hello friends, here's Mobile. Today we're checking out over 30 new mobile games of June 2026 for Android and iOS. Sea of Remnants is now actually available, although in China. You can play the game with a Chinese VPN and a translator app, of course. The English versions, however, coming out around July, although a full version still on the wraps. So yeah, for those of you who missed it, in fact, NetEase and Joker Studios are going all the way console tier, like all the way. The story is, well, you play as a sailor with no memories in this game, sailing across oceans, fighting, packing up a crew, and slowly uncovering whatever happened to the world that made everyone, including yourself, a puppet. So it's an online game. It's about 15 to 20 gigabytes in total, depending on your device, and it's currently in a beta. Coming up behind that at number 2 with Wizard World Harry's Mystery, which is, of course, very clearly trying to live in that Hogwarts Legacy sort of vibe, but for mobile space, except it sort of shows up like the budget cousin who got the invitation but not the graphics card. So look, to be fair, there's a pretty decent sandbox in the game. You've got broom flying, spell experimentation and exploration that actually encourages messing around, but compared to Hogwarts Legacy, of course, it feels more like a wizardry sim. It's not trying to be Hogwarts is what I'm saying, but it is definitely standing in the same hallway, wearing a similar robe and hoping nobody asks questions. It's an offline game but 500 megabytes in total. Going down to number 3, we've got Ungodly. And Ungodly is in fact one of the oldest in line to be making its way around Android and iOS, and it is legit one of the more interesting MMORPGs arriving in the next few weeks, totally. Ungodly, in fact, is actually coming from the same creator behind Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes. It is set in this dying world where an unstoppable force known as the Devouring is consuming everything in its path. And instead of relying on idle mechanics, well, obviously as an MMO, Ungodly focuses on active combat. The atmosphere, the monster design, art direction, all of it does give it a pretty unique identity as well. We think it is definitely one to keep in mind for the coming days. So far we can play the beta, it's about 4 gigabytes in total. Lumberjack Sim is basically a first-person forestry sim where you start with just an axe, work your way all the way up into a full logging operation. You're not idling anything here. Every tree is chopped manually with actual falling mechanics where you can cut it, strip it, haul logs, and process timber step by step. And from there, it actually turns into a full loop of transporting wood, restoring a pickup truck, upgrading sawmill machines, and building production chains. It's a pretty slow game, methodical and very hands-on, more about the routine of running a logging business than any arcade-style, say, action game. It's also free.
Let's roll!
The Simpsons Hit and Run, which is basically Grand Theft Auto in Springfield, is now available on Android. It's actually not on any Google Play or the Apple Store officially, but there is a way you can play it on Android. The game itself, if you must know, is an arcade comedy classic in just the greatest way. You're driving around town, doing missions, switching between Simpsons, slowly getting pulled into an alien conspiracy involving mind control. Half the game is just cruising around, the other half is missions where you are smashing, racing, or running through platforms. It is legitimately pure Simpson charm in just the greatest form. Go down in the description, find the game's name, and do what it says. Bogdanscape at number 6 is actually a sort of a stealth-scape game, and it revolves around a dude named Bogdan who's locked down in a school where it's just him and a bully hunting him down. The whole game is just sneaking, grabbing whatever useful item you find, solving puzzles and figuring out how to smart the prick instead of fighting him. There's a mix of stealth, a little horror tension, and escape room style logic, plus some pretty goofy cutscenes and story moments as well. It's a free game, it is simple, and it works. Number 7, we've got here something called Phantom Makina. We've got good news with this game and also bad news. First of all, it is one of those games that comes in swinging like it's auditioning for some sort of Netflix adaptation. It is a super serious sci-fi anime shooting game, a tad you could say inspired by the classic PlayStation 2 game Zone of the Enders, and the bad news is that it's in Korean for now. Besides that, It's a very committed game to its bit. We've got a future where death itself has become industrialized and souls turn into fuel for machines, and it's all very, very story heavy and action oriented as well. It's a free game, so 1 GB in total, and it plays online. Crysis X is already out in Eastern regions now, while still rolling out and building towards a wider global release in case you can't play it. Honestly, this thing fits that early access MMO survival energy pretty well. Huge open map, tons of systems, and that constant pressure which is never being safe. Massive survival MMO game in general, but with that classic you versus the world setup where survival is just your only real objective. It's basically just a giant survival sandbox where everything is just competing for your time and resources. Crysis X is an online game, of course. It's free, about 13 to 14 GB in total, and does have controller support. Going even further with number 9, we've got Boxhead. So Boxhead just came out with once again, and now in its premium form. It might just be one of the most well worth every penny buck kind of games that plays both online and offline. And in case you aren't familiar with this game, it is basically a zombie survival roguelike that has a pretty solid core loop. You drop in this post-apocalypse, pick weapons, trying to survive wave after wave of zombies. It is pretty smooth, it is fine-tuned, very polished, and for the premium, you're getting exclusive gacha boxes, faster progression, more power-ups, more starter gifts, etc. Alright, so a quick honorable mention here. Monster Hunter Outlanders development's going buttery smooth, and you can still pre-register and play the game on the Google and the Apple Store. It is basically Monster Hunter built all the way from mobile without even trying to copy the console base. And that is why it works. You're building squads, mixing classes, hitting out on bite-sized hunts that still feel like real monster fights, and outside the combat, it's a big open world to explore, lots of crafting and traversal tools. It is Monster Hunter, just more streamlined for quick sessions instead of long grinds. Moving on. Going down to number 11, we've got Hamba Cow Sim, which is, as you can see, a sort of a survival game where you're stuck inside a cattle market and a giant bull is chasing everybody down. Not really a bull, just an angry cow. And your job is pretty simple, you gotta run for your life for a set time while dodging the cow, grabbing XP, try not to get launched in the air by ragdoll physics. It's more of a meme-style survival game than anything serious. Got messy physics, lots of funny sound effects, and a small map built around just pure mayhem. Pretty good game, it is offline, it is free, and it's about 200 megabytes in total. This actually took a couple of weeks, but for those of you who are or were waiting for the Android version, Old Market Sim's now on both the Google and the Apple Store. There's a free demo, and the rest of the game's a one-time purchase. Well, in case you aren't familiar with it, it is exactly what it says on the tin. You start with this small little rundown shop, try not to get bankrupt in the process. Interestingly, it's got co-op support, meaning you can run this off with a friend, which is, in my opinion, just probably the best thing about this game in all the right measures. Sitting on Steam, Google, and the Apple Store with a 7 GB size, at number 13, we've got Immortal Destiny. So first of all, Immortal Destiny is a MMORPG that's legit aiming towards big fantasy MMO crowd, where there's basically always something happening in the background. You've got the Unreal Engine 5 visuals, big boss fights, multiple classes to choose from, and just a ton of gear to grind. Yeah, if you enjoy good looking MMO grinders, this should legitimately feel just pretty familiar. Going down to number 14, we've got Darksword, Light of Ainn. Light of Ainn is basically a boss rush sort of game where almost everything revolves around learning fights, new abilities, becoming strong enough to take down the next monster standing in your way. Every boss you take down gives you something useful, so whether if it's a new power or a tool that just changes how you approach combat. The combat itself though mixes melee, range, dodging, and a bit of bullet hell, so you're like constantly weaving through attacks while looking for any openings. If you're into games where the bosses are just the main attention, this one's a pretty easy recommendation. It's offline, got controller support, takes you down $5. So this actually took a decade to come around, but for better or worse, Playdages finally decided to bring Slime Rancher to mobile, and the game is now live on both the Google and the Apple Store, with in fact a rating of 5 out of 5, and also a price tag of $8. So Slime Rancher already proved itself as a super addictive and a satisfying game on the platform, since you're basically just running a slime farm on an alien planet, collecting bounce ball creatures, feeding them, mixing them, eventually turning them into profit. It sounds dumb, plays amazing, and PlayDigits didn't mess around porting it over either. It runs surprisingly well with or without a controller, and it does look pretty well in every single graphical setting. On another hand, we've got the game Tomb Busters, and the game finally landed today on mobile. It's sitting there with an overwhelmingly positive score in its current state. It took a couple years to come around, but it's well polished and, in my opinion, really worth the wait. So the game itself is as if someone mixed Phasmophobia with like a Chinese myth and like went all the way in survival co-op. You went up to 3 other players diving into tombs, packed with all sorts of traps, rituals, and the deeper you go, the uglier things get as well. Definitely one of those games where like half the fun comes from panicking and accidentally ruining the mission to get it with friends. 10 out of 10. It's a free game, hella fun with friends. Mini Shoot Adventures is finally on mobile. Man, this thing is legitimately special. See, it's a pretty tiny little Metroidvania sort of shooter game where you control a little ship exploring a huge interconnected world that's packed with just secrets, puzzles, upgrade, the smoothest of gameplays, and non-stop bullet hell fighting. It plays like old school Zelda mixed with twin stick combat, which is just something of its own kind, and it's constantly rewarding exploration with new abilities, hidden paths. The world design is in fact ridiculously smart. It's got bosses that are insane, and somehow the whole thing stays cozy instead of stressful. One of those indie games that instantly feels crafted with actual love. It might have one problem, although I don't really call it a problem, which is the game's not free, it will take you $5.99. Taco Food here is probably one of the best free cooking sim games we've played for months, and it's just as simple as it can get. You're a chef, you build tacos step by step, picking recipes, go through the process of grilling, prepping, and layering ingredients on a tortilla. Yeah, each taco of course has its own set of ingredients, like shrimp, chicken, beef, pork, veggies, and you assemble them in order until the final dish is complete. No time pressure, no stress by any means, just about following steps and watching taco come together from start to finish. Pretty good game. Going down to number 19, we've got Stunt Bike Evolution, and Stunt Bike Evolution is another platform sort of physics-based bike game where you're trying to survive obstacle tracks while pulling off stunts at the same time. The whole loop is pretty simple, race courses, land clean, do flips when you can, and try not to crash before the finish line. It's more about control and momentum than speed, with sort of like every level basically testing how well you can handle the bike physics. Free game, it's online, about 250 megabytes in total. Moving on. Going down to number 20, we've got Smash Monkeys. I'm not really sure. Apparently, this game took almost 5 years to come back on the Play Store, and for those of you such as myself who've missed it, it's a sort of a casual, better played multiplayer platforming racing game where you're basically a monkey doing what a monkey can do with simple controls, fast mechanics, and just a lot of momentum, like swings where like one good or bad moment can decide the whole race. So, I don't know, if you were into, say, light competitive platformers with party game energy, well, this actually fits right in. It is also playable both online and offline. So, with that being said, Dragonfall Kingdom is a classic sort of 4X strategy game where you are putting together a kingdom, bunch of heroes through gacha pulls of course, and slowly expanding your kingdom into a shared world with other players. So the core loop revolves around upgrading the buildings, managing resources, strengthening heroes, growing your army. Battles lean more on formations, hero abilities, and team setups rather than just power alone per se. It's also got alliances, PvP, territory wars, and a lot of large-scale multiplayer. Going even further, with number 22, we've got Legend of Glory, which is one of those idle RPGs that just wants you checking your phone every few hours just to see how big you've become. While you were offline, you log out with a handful of heroes, come back to a small army that's somehow twice as rich, twice as strong, and already halfway through another upgrade path. The game is legitimately jam-packed with boss fights, guild content, PvP, lots of progression systems as well. If your favorite part of RPGs is just watching an account snowball completely out of control, this is pretty much it. Pixel Defenders at number 23 is a classic mobile merge tower defense wrapped in pixel art, in just probably the most justice way. Meaning, it's a strategy tower defense at core, but with like a few logical gacha elements as well. The core loop here is merging duplicates to evolve stronger units, then, stacking synergies to survive longer waves. It's also got that idle-leaning progression where you're constantly leveling, summoning and optimizing a better team. So yeah, if you like merge games mixed with tower defense and gacha, this is one of those play a bit, come back stronger sort of games. Number 24, we've got Dust Off-Road Racing. And Dust Off-Road Racing is just straight up ATV racer, and it's built around mud, dirt, and just a ton of rough terrain driving. So it's, well, simply mud bike racing through lots of tight turns, hills, and bump tracks where grip and balance is actually the whole thing. It's not fancy by any means, it's about controlling your speed, trying to stay ahead in all sorts of messy, bad conditions. You win, you get better bikes, push harder races with tougher opponents and tougher tracks. That's it. Coming up behind that, we've got Kingdom Fall, zombie defense, and this is one of those base building strategy games where everything starts from ruins, and well, of course, it's your job to drag it back from the dead, literally. Yeah, the story is you're a lord rebuilding a broken kingdom after a zombie plague almost wipes everything out, so it's equal parts survival, defense, and progression grind. You rescue survivors, recruit, upgrade your castle, and turn this pretty weak settlement into a fortified war machine. Check it out, it's also a free game, it's playable online, and it's about 800 megabytes in total. On another hand, at number 26, we've got Ocean Riders. Ocean Riders is in fact a idle RPG with pirate themes, and a lot of it. Meaning, it's an AFK sort of RPG, and you're collecting heroes from different races and classes, upgrading whatever ship you have, turning a tiny little island into a pirate stronghold as you go. The main hook in this game, I think, well, it seems to be the team building side of things, because there's like a bunch of, there's over 70-80 different heroes to collect, and you gotta manage about 9-10 different fighters at once in a battle, giving you basically plenty of room to experiment with. If you enjoy hero collectors, account progression, idle game snowballs, and pirates, this is definitely it. With that being said, Gun Warfare is technically Battle Royale Gun Warfare, is your typical standard BP loop, and it's actually the first work of its team. The interesting part is that you can actually swap between FPS and TPS mid-battle, pick up rifles, snipers, shotguns, whatever you find, and just obviously try to survive. It's got both offline missions and online PvP, so you're either running solo against bots, or jumping into matches with real players. Nothing complicated here, just straight gunfights, looting, and trying to be the last one standing. Pretty good game though. Moving down to number 28, we've got Scarland. Actually, the new work of the famous Five Nights at the Tima games. It's one of the fine horror adventure games that we played recently. It's an offline game, and it will give you actual trauma. So it starts, you go through a door, end up in a very strange world with these floating islands, and each island has a lot of puzzles, enemies, bosses, and trauma. You solve them, move forward. You can also use teleport and slow time to help you. That's right, you've got abilities here. Keep going from island to island to find out about the story and what this whole Scarland is. It's sort of a simple game, but like not in a good way, but a fine made game. Number 29, we've got a Yuki Army. It is a sort of a wave-based action shooter, of course, where you're basically dropped in as a solo soldier against these zombie robot things. Each level is just survival through hundreds of these foes rushing at you while you manage an automatic weapon and EMP grenades to sort of take care of them. Well, the core loop is straightforward, which is, you shoot, reposition, throw EMP, repeat until waves break. It's more about handling pressure than deep mechanics. Bunch of great missions over 10 different stages. It's a free game, it's offline, and it's 150 megabytes in total. Why not? Number 30, we've got this sort of genius game. It's called Cobb Can Move. One of those indie horror games that takes a simple idea and just runs with it. It does stand out because the monster you see there is constantly changing rules on you. You're in this randomly generated sort of dungeons collecting resources, restoring power, searching for escape route while being hunted by this red dude thing. What makes it interesting is that the creature keeps evolving, gaining new ways to track, trap, and pressure you through every different run. So yeah, the game is just a fine bunch of hours in good panic and plenty, I mean just a ton of unpredictability. Now, Arcane Squad on the other hand mixes extraction RPG and roguelike energy. Like every dungeon's simply a risk-reward loop. Pretty fast game, it's run-based and very one more try heavy. Especially if you do like games where success is actually about knowing when to leave, not just fighting everything you see on sight. You go in with a squad, clear enemies, grab loot, and then decide if you want to push deeper or try to extract before you lose everything. That tension is in fact in this game the whole point. Greed versus survival every run. Last Core is actually sitting on both stores and it's a roguelike shooter. It is, I'm gonna give him that, a pretty brave attempt at roguelike shooters. We are leading this sort of squad of mechs into these labyrinths, hunting for the one resource humanity can't survive without anymore, which you're gonna figure out yourself. The fun comes in fact from adapting on the fly because of the upgrades and the enemies that you face and layouts that just constantly change as you go forward. Pretty fast game, surprisingly tactical at times, and say if you enjoy watching your builds come together as you fight big mechs, this one's got the right energy. And last but not least, we've got Space Knights, which is an old school top-down sort of shooter that would have definitely happily lived on a PlayStation 1 demo disc somewhere. Pretty good game. You are in this alien planet, blasting your way through while searching for your missing brother. So it's got story. The combat's pretty simple, but there's enough RPG progression underneath to make like every upgrade feel worthwhile. So yeah, the game's not trying to reinvent the genre per se, but to deliver a straightforward shoot, survive adventure. Thanks for watching. I really hope you enjoyed. I'll see you again tomorrow.